America. Today is Thursday the 9th of October 2025. Wow, the year is fast spent. Bright sunny day here at the campus of the University of Houston, where I am recording live from. How are you guys doing? Yes. All right. And the week is fast spent, and I hope your cruise has been great and the work has not been as stressful. But work is meant to be stressful. It's not fun, but you have to work in order to survive, pay your bills, especially those of us who live in the West. It's all about bills, bills, bills. All right, jump in. This is Smart Mado Ajaja, the convener of Open Nigeria and Africa Unite, and the anchor of Nigeria Now and Global Matters Arising on ONN. All right, we are talking about so much, like Bob Marley said. He said, we got so much things to say right now. Yes, we've got so much things to say. We've got so much things to say right now. Yeah, we got so much things to say. Hey, I'll never forget no way how they crucified Jesus Christ. Hear that? I'll never forget no way how they sold Marcus Garvey for rice. Children, I'll never forget no way how they turned their pox on pork bogus. So don't you forget no way who you are and where you stand in the struggle. All right, that's what it is. Great, great. One more time. Nigeria featuring. Nigeria is in a state of state capture. Many signs that Nigerians ignored about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who came from the back doors without winning an election to become president of Nigeria with the active support of those who mastermind terrorism. Yes, those who mastermind terrorism. Yes, and those who mastermind terrorism in Nigeria are Fulani elites. Before now, they were fronting as leaders of the North. Yes, and it has always been this very contentious. We continue to call the North, the North, the North. Yes, but on a deeper reflection, I personally came to an understanding that the North that we blame for the problems of Nigeria is actually not the North. It's not the North. It's those who wear the uniform of the North to rob the people of Nigeria in the North, and then by extension, the whole people of Nigeria. They are responsible for where we are today. And on a closer examination, we discovered that they are Fulanis, Fulani elites, on a mission to finish the work of Osman Fodio, the man who came from the Futa Jalon in the present-day Guinea to overrun Hausa land, seize their kingdoms, made them slaves in their country, in their Hausa kingdom at the time, because there was no Nigeria then. And this happened in 1804. And when he was dying, he left a message for his children and his followers to continue his work until they dipped the Quran inside the sea. The last town or village standing the south of the country. And that is where we are. Dusi, thank you very much for joining. We appreciate you. Yes, thank you. All right. You know, that's where the trouble with Nigeria started. And then the time came when the Berlin Conference was concluded and the Europeans moved to capture the whole of Africa. The British came to Nigeria and they were operating in the north, just like they operated somewhere else. in other parts of the country. They found a friendship with the Fulani elites who just conquered, with the help of the British, who defeated the Hausa people and took their land and made them slaves in their places. And this year, 2025, makes it exactly 221 years since the invasion called a jihad by Osman Dan Fodio. A jihad that was driven by what? Economics, economic resource control, finance, and the quest to control political power. He didn't have anything with religion, but he brought the Quran and fronted with the Quran. He wanted to teach them a new brand, a new different way of being Muslims. Mind you, the Hausa people were Muslims hundreds of years before the arrival of this man now, that his action is reflexive and symbolic of terrorism. That's how the trouble started. Yes. At independence, his grandson, Amadou Bello, made a terrible hate statement. Maybe let me just play it. It is good. When we speak here, we speak with authority. We speak with the truth in our mouth, so we don't make up anything. Yes. His grandson, Amadou Bello, was interviewed on day one at independence in Nigeria about the new country. And this is what he had to say about one ethnic group, the Igbo ethnic group. I love to give an analogy of what took place in Nigeria. I know some people get offended because their ancestors were involved, but histories are not made to be beautiful, and history guides us, about how far we have traveled and how to plan, how to travel, make things better, and that is the reason we study history. Nobody should be ashamed or afraid of it. It happened. But what can we do to make it better? That is what we all are all striving for. I want to see a Nigeria where everybody will be happy. I want to see a Nigeria where nobody will be afraid of living in any part of Nigeria. I want to see a Nigeria where it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or Muslim or an animist, you are able to be that Nigerian and live anywhere you can lawfully in Nigeria without fear of being molested or asked to leave that part of the country. Because living anywhere and everywhere in Nigeria is a way of asserting your right to the citizenship of the country. Now, let us hear what Amadou Bello had to say on the one at independence. He was the premier of the then northern Nigeria at the time. Here, Amadou Bello, with a British BBC interviewer. Hear what he said.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I'd almost call it obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. And I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but
He doesn't care.
but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there may be 10 laborers employed only in the two regions.
Right. Viewers from Nigeria, across Africa, and around the world. You heard that. I did not make it up. That was Amadu Bello, the first premier of Northern Region in Nigeria, speaking directly to a BBC reporter at Independence. That is supposed to be a leader in a country that was granted independence as one country, one Nigeria, one destiny. He made that statement on day one, hate statement against a harmless people, against a harmless ethnic group. Yes, on day one. And like I said, this man was the one who fired the bullet that killed Nigeria on the very first day. So many other things happened, but this one was it. So strategic. Yes, so disastrous. Yes, he fired the bullet that killed Nigeria in the head on day one. Grandson of Osman Danfodio, the man who invaded Hausa land and seized everything. So they have always had this mindset, this mentality. So when he talks about the North, do you know what he's talking about? He's not talking about the whole North. He's talking about the Fulani North. He's not talking about the Nigerian North. He's not talking about anything else. When he says that he northernized the civil service in the North, how did he northernize it? Northernizing it by appointing Fulanis into strategic positions in the civil service in the North. Contrary to widely held opinion before now, the Hausa people were kept in the cooler. They were not appointed to any position. The Baron people were kept in the cooler. They were not appointed to any strategic positions in the North. The Idomas were not appointed to any position in the North. The thieves were not appointed as strategic drivers of the destiny of the North. The Igedes were not. The Angas were not. It has always been the Fulanis, Fulani elites, directing the destiny of the North that they carved out for themselves. They drove and still drives everything in the North. And you know what? They are a small minority group in the North. The Fulani elites, acted and perfected the script of Osman Danfodio. Yes, the script of domination by a minority group. What is different between what has been taking place in the North since 1804 to date and what took place in South Africa that we call apartheid? Yes, the end of which Nigeria invested both human and material and financial resources until apartheid crumbled. But those who drove apartheid, who are driving apartheid in Nigeria, were at the forefront, because 10 out of the country's head of states were either directly or remotely Fulanis. For people to come to power in Nigeria, you have to identify with the Fulanis. A small minority group, the elites, wrote a damn bad-ass script that kept Nigeria in bondage. And that bondage is broken today. And that bondage is ending today. They created this huge siege on the people of Nigeria that Nigerians are afraid, and they wrapped it around the north. The north became like a different sovereign entity within the sovereign entity of Nigeria, in competition with Nigeria. Before we say anything, it's the north. Before we drink water, they talk about the north. Everybody is talking about how the north will feel. No, I stand here today now with the new knowledge that I have. It is not the north. It is those who camouflage themselves with the north, ripping Nigeria off to the detriment of the people in the north and to the detriment of Nigerians all over Nigeria. We have diagnosed it. You can prove me wrong on this. You saw it. When they come and say northern leadership, I can tell you that 90% of it is made up of Fulani elites. When there is any benefit that is to go to the north, they hijack it. At that time, the man from Plateau State will not be a northerner. It has to be in the hands. The benefit has to be in the hands of some Fulani elites. Or nobody. They don't talk about the north. Like when they talk about the zonal leadership of Nigeria, zonal presidency. When they say the presidency is going to the north, for instance, I don't believe in it. It has to be in the hands of a Fulani. Yes. Not in the hands of anybody. Check it out. You are a Nigerian. So my reason is to teach you Nigerians. If you don't understand, you are scared of asking questions. I'm going to answer your questions even before you ask them. Whenever they are anything they talk about region, who benefits? Is the Fulanis. They are the north. There's nothing like northern Nigeria. When you talk about northern Nigeria, it's the Fulani elites driven northern Nigeria for their benefits and to the detriment of the whole of Nigeria. So this is what the ordinary man who found himself or who still claims that he's a northerner. I'm telling you, that northerner thing is an evil spirit that must die. It's an evil spirit created by Fulani elites. That spirit is dead. We want one open Nigeria. That is the only way for Nigeria. That is the only thing that is going to save Nigeria. If you continue to line behind their north, you will be slaves to them forever. They are now desperate because everybody now understands the game that they have been playing, how they have been manipulating the people of Nigeria. Starting as far back as 1904, when they did the amalgamation, all right, of Nigeria, amalgamation of the North and South, the biggest fraud that ever took place on the soil of Africa, orchestrated by the corrupt and morally British imperial system. Yes. At that amalgamation in 1904, 6 persons signed 6 persons from what became Nigeria signed. Guess how many are they? The Fulanis, 2. One later became the Sultan, the fake Sultanate that they created, upon which they want to build their Fulani nation that must not stand in Nigeria. Right? One of them. Another one occupied one big position. Then there were 2 Yorubas. One was the first Yoruba lawyer, and another one was a traditional ruler, Yoruba traditional ruler. All right? That was how that. Then there was one, an Efik, the Obango of Calabar at the time. And then the Shehu of Borno, so made it 6. Now, if you look at the configuration of Nigeria and the journey Nigeria has traveled to where we are right now, you will see that there's a relation, very strong relationship. And those who has been keeping the generational of this same thing with these people generationally at every point. So the markers are there to where we are. The markers were there through all the constitutional conferences Nigeria went through. The markers were there right at independence. The markers, yes, the gang up of Nigeria was there when the catastrophe in Nigeria started. The Fulani elites have been the drivers, and they found good accomplices from among Yoruba elites. Look at it, even right now as it's playing. Hold on, let me just do something. So to buttress what I'm saying, we cannot continue the country this way. We cannot. I was trying to get something for to documented evidence of what I'm talking about. So it won't be like I am doing this as a way of expressing hate for any group of people in Nigeria. Nigeria is our country. We have a moral, civic, and constitutional, even spiritual obligation to make the country work. So I wanted to present you an analogy. Soon after independence, the country went up in flames. Why? Because these Fulani elites, led by Amadou Bello, the guy who made this horrible speech against the Igbos, they had a plan to overrun the country. So there was an intelligence in that regard. They wanted to continue the jihad of their ancestors. So the intelligence was intercepted. And there are some young military officers. They were in the Nigerian army. They were not the Igbo army. They were not Yoruba army. They were not Hausa army. They were just soldiers who were scared and I didn't want their country to go up in flames. They jumped in and seized power. Yes. Because the trouble started from the southwest of Nigeria, where you find a lot of Yorubas. There was Akintola, Ladoke Akintola, who was the premier of that part of Nigeria at the time. And then a squabble between him and the first premier, Obafemi Awolowo. And Akintola, from what we know historically, was a stooge, a lakey or whatever, of Amadou Bello that he wanted to use to cause confusion in the southwest of Nigeria. And a lot of people were dying. People were dying. If you hear Yoruba, you get, wait here. Mean wet here means wet him. They were pouring acid, using acid to kill fellow Nigerians, fellow Yorubas, because of the manipulation of Amadu Bello, who wanted to destabilize the entire country, starting from the southwest of Nigeria. So if you're a Yoruba man, Yoruba young person, listen to this. So that's where the problem started. The other parts of the country was peaceful, or were peaceful. There was no trouble in Igbo land. There was no trouble even in the north. But Amadu Bello was using Ladoke Akintola to fight Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And scores, many, if not thousands, of poor, innocent, and defenseless Yorubas died in the political war between Ladoke, sponsored by Amadu Bello, and Chief Obafemi Awolowo. That's why you hear Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West. If you go back to the history, Wild Wild, the West was wild. So, with this understanding, the young military officers struck. There were five majors. They struck plus some other one, five major participants. And from what we know now, the coupists were drawn from across Nigeria. But the fake and corrupt, ever fake and corrupt Nigerian mainstream media twisted what happened and made it look like it was an Igbo coup. Yeah, there were young soldiers who were Igbos. But I know that the Igbos never at any time came together to want to plan a coup against the people of Nigeria. Those people were purely military officers. The media found a way to twist it. And what I came to an understanding about was that the coup was actually planned to give power to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He did not deny it. His special secretary, Odia Ofemu, wrote it. And those men and women of truth who knew what was going on said it and have been saying it. And most recently, Babangida, in his exit book that they call Memoir, reinforced that the coup was not an Igbo coup, even though he was a beneficiary of the reactionary actions that those who claim to be northern military officers, masterminded by these elements, yes, with sympathy for the crazy and warped religious and economic ideology of Osman Danfodio and his children. Yes, struck back in a reactionary move and destabilized the country. They killed Agui Ironsi, who helped persuade Nzogo to drop the idea. Nigerians are very, very amnesic. They don't ask questions. They run with everything that they are told. Hey, if you are joining us for the very first time, please, we welcome you. We welcome you. We love you. Thank you very much for joining us. And then we encourage you to subscribe to our channel, and then to our returning members, much love. And we cannot even express how much we love you. Thank you. What we are talking about is Nigeria, the state capture. All right. So soon after that, after the Kiragwe Ironsi, they kept on massacring the Igbos in the north and most anywhere in the country. But and nobody could do anything to stop them. And they moved them mass back to their region with sticks, machete, against a well-oiled Nigerian army, driven and manipulated by the Fulanis. with the massive support of Imperial Europe, led by Britain. They massacred over 6 million Nigerians of Igbo extraction. And when it ended in 1970, they got tired because now they were just killing anyhow. I think obvious. And I don't know what I would call it. Was it their conscience? They had to pause and declared no victor, no vanquished. And they declared the 3 R's: reconciliation, reintegration, and reconstruction. But as we speak, any one of those 3 R's was implemented. Nothing. They did not reconcile with the Igbos. And I want to tell you that at the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, where some of the greatest scientists, African scientists, came out from, they manufactured a lot of things, including a Nigerian African-made armored car that will, when it starts, it doesn't stop. The people who turned the palm oil into aviation fuel, the people who built the first made it built by Africans airport at Uli, yes. Those who refined the petroleum from nothing. The chemical engineering department of that university has remained closed since 1970, when the genocide was declared over. Yes, the chemical engineering department of the University of Nigeria and Nsukka has remained closed. If you have a contrary opinion or you can prove it, tell me that it is functioning now. Then the Igbos were relegated to the background. At the end of that war, or that genocide, every Igbo man who had money in the bank, no matter how much it was given 20 pounds. Even if you were a billionaire, you were given 20 pounds to start life again. These people dispersed and went back. There's something about them. They went back, recovered, and took over commerce and industry in Nigeria. Now, what did Nigeria do with all those scientists? What did they do with the scientists? A lot of them are now dead. A true country will assemble those exceptional Nigerians to create an industry where they can build war armaments so that Nigeria will not be relying on the foreign countries who will use 8 years to build one tank and send to them. Tank makers were already made in Nigeria because of the hate Nigeria has for the Igbos, the fear, Igbophobia. They lost that part of the country's history. Now let's fast track this. 10 out of the country's 13 heads of states were either directly Fulanis or remotely Fulanis. This tiny ethnic group in Nigeria with the craziest elites, how they did it to hold Nigeria down. Yes, to where we are. It's interesting. The country is. Now let's start. Go on. He came as a northerner, masterminded Ahmed was a at Asaba, Delta State, where I come from. Every 4 days, this man committed, he wiped out all the males in Asaba. That was General Murtala Mohammed. He paid for his evil, for his wickedness. Yes. Then after Mohammed was who? Obasanjo. Obasanjo, the coward, biggest coward and opportunist. Yes. Why did he become head of state? There were officers from other places. But go back to the history of amalgamation to find out. They found it more convenient to have him there. Obasanjo was there. So it's an anchorage. In 1979, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, Fulani, president of Nigeria, democratically elected. That's what they say. In that race with Abiola, the NPM primaries, we knew what happened. Abiola did not belong to the Yoruba ethnic elite group with ties to 1904. He didn't belong. So he was out of that equation because Abiola was a Zikist. If you know, and the African liberation struggle, you hear Zikism, you hear Nkrumahite. Yeah, Zik was about the most popular um, fighter for the decolonization of Africa. But sadly today, not much is heard about Zik stage. Thanks to Nigeria. Nkrumah actually was Zik's boy. He asked him question, why are you doing this in Nigeria? You are giving too much room. But Zik would not listen. Put himself. Zikists were those who had uh, a different opinion to the dysfunction of Nigeria and the trajectory the country was traveling. So they stopped him and said that the presidency of Nigeria was not for sale. That was what they said at the time. All right. Shehu Shagari became president. After Shehu Shagari, who was next? Another Fulani man, Muhammadu Buhari, on the 31st of December 1983, ousted Shehu Shagari, placed him on house arrest, brought his vice, the Igbo man, Alex Ekweme, and dumped him in jail. Yes. All right. Now, he continued. 1986, Ibrahim Babangida. From what we to today now, we know that Ibrahim Babangida, his father was an Hausa man from Kano State. But because he was Hausa, he could not express his Hausaness. He had to become a Fulani in order to be effectively in charge of Nigeria as head of state. He crowned himself military president. So shameless, he's now talking about his Hausa heritage. But when he came as a Fulani. All right. He was there for 8 years. Took Nigeria through an endless transition to civil rule, even when he knew he was not serious about it. Then the people of Nigeria put him under a lot of pressure. He said he stepped aside. Stepping aside, he could have retired a lot of officers, including General Abacha. Just to tell you how mischievous these people are. They had already reached an arrangement that Abacha was going to be the next head of state. But look at what Babangida did. He invited Ernest Shonokon, a Yoruba man. Yes. to become the interim president of Nigeria, knowing fully well that he had already put us Abacha waiting to take over the government. It wasn't a matter of about a few months. Abacha struck and pushed the Shanaka the other way, and he took over as the head of state of Nigeria. Nigerians, know your history. Nigerian youth, know your history. It is because of you that I'm in this. You may not like it because I am speaking the truth, especially those who come from the places where these criminals who have held our country hostage are from. But it's not about them. This country, Nigeria, is all about us. It's our country. We all have a duty to make Nigeria work, regardless of where you come from, not south, east, or west. The country is ours. So Abacha took over and then started running wild with the country's resources. There was an international uproar. Abacha decided to start running a black market economy. He depleted the country's foreign reserves, brought all the money, and then he distributed money to private individuals that he thought he trusted to help him run the economy as the country came under sanction from the imperial West. So that was how the likes of Ibori became billionaires for not doing work, because Ibori was one of his boys. When you hear Abacha boys, now EFCC, are you listening? Go and arrest every person who was an Abacha boy. They have our country's money. Abacha gave them money. He was spending, he was using them to import things until he died. When he died, all of them pocketed the money that they had. There was nobody to ask them to bring the money back. And from somewhere, they brought Obasanjo back, a Yoruba man. Obasanjo, a Yoruba man again, with ties to 1904, the amalgamation gang up. Yeah, you see they brought Obasanjo back from jail. Obasanjo had put him in jail over a coup plan that involved Imperial Europe. They asked him to be a part of the coup. Obasanjo was a part of the coup. He was in Denmark when Abacha rounded off Dia and the rest of them. Yes, he had the audacity to return. He didn't return because he was such a brave man. He was the biggest coward during the genocide, a man who was scared of going to the battlefront. Imperial Europe told him to return to Nigeria. We got your back. He returned, and Abacha arrested him and put him in jail. Yes. The only problem was that he didn't act fast as he acted with Yaradua when they poisoned the Yaradua and he died. Before he could get to Obasanjo, to finish him off. Yeah, that was how from prison, Obasanjo became president of Nigeria for 2 terms. What did he do? He did absolutely nothing. Again, another semi-Fulani man. He had the opportunity to correct all that was going wrong in Nigeria, all the nonsense that he's been writing letters about. He had the power and everything to change things. He did not. So when people trooped to Obasanjo's house to go and worship him, that demon, he's one of the biggest trouble Nigeria had. He wanted a 3rd term, and then he could not get it. He brought a Yaradua, a Fulani man. All right? He knew Yaradua was a good man. Let me give it to him. Good man. Yaradua, if he was heady, perhaps would have been the best Nigerian president. For the small period of time he was, the less than 2 years that he was there, He made some bold moves, expected of a true leader. He was not controversial. He was not nepotistic like most Fulani elites are. He actually admitted that the process that brought him to power was not clean because Ibori was the one who stole my state's money in addition to what Abacha left in his hands to fund the presidential election of Yaradua. So when the man took power, he confessed to Nigerians that the process that brought him to power was not clean, but he was going to do his best. But sadly, he was sick. He had end-stage renal disease. He had not had the opportunity of doing a transplant that could have brought him back to life to lead Nigeria towards its destination. He died. And then when he died, Jonathan Goodluck, an unprepared president, the man who was never, he didn't even think that he was going to ever be, became president of Nigeria. What did he do? God handed Nigeria over to him to change. He did not. He came to Houston. I met him twice. We all talked about what he should do, what he must do to reposition Nigeria for the good of the whole of Nigerians. He went home after we fought, we did all we did to make him president of Nigeria through their doctrine of necessity. It wasn't David Mark was most reluctant to make that announcement. But the powers behind Jonathan from us in the diaspora and for people around the world was overwhelming. He had to make that statement. He made the statement that Jonathan became president through the doctrine of necessity. And then Jonathan went ahead to win a standalone blackmail election. First time in the history of our country. He blew up the chance. 4 years after, he couldn't do a damn thing to change the course of history. The same criminals who call themselves northern leaders, Fulani elites, came to him and told him that they will only back him as if they were the owners of Nigeria. They will only back him for a second term if he fired Dr. Festus Odumegu, the chairman of the Nigerian Population Commission. But his greed for power was not reading the fine lines. He didn't know that these people were the faces of terrorism, the faces of terrorism, with Buhari, commander of Boko Haram, right near from him. He yielded in threat he represents. They were scared that all the games that they have been playing with Nigeria will be caught. Because these were people who bring people from Mauritania, people from Niger, and they have access to the benefits, yes, that are exclusive to Nigerians. That's how they make up the bogus northern population. They have been doing it. They leave the country's borders porous. Yes, Jonathan Goodluck, foolish man. He accepted. So when they say Jonathan Goodluck is a good president, I don't know where they get that from. But because a lot of them don't even know some of these facts. Even when you tell them, they won't still believe it. Yes, these are facts. That was how Jonathan Goodluck, he was the only one who voted for Buhari to become president. He handed over Nigeria to Buhari to finish off. His national security advisor was an enemy, killing him from inside. Yes, Fulani elites. Very devious. Okay, let me fast track. Now we got to where we are. Buhari became president. 8 years of wanton destruction. 8 years of Fulani bandits, Fulani terrorists taking all over Nigeria, from the east, west, north, and south. In my hometown, far south of Nigeria, over 100 people have been kidnapped. Out of whom 10 have been murdered. One painful one, a small baby that was born today, was fed to the dogs of these terrorists. And he wants us to continue with them. And then they came. When his tenure was over, there came this monster called Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yes. Who claimed during many times during the electioneering campaign, Nigerians need. He gave you warning. He told you ahead of time what he was going to do. He was going to continue terrorism. He was going to continue to degrade the country's economy. Now, the first warning sign was during when they wanted to choose a vice presidential candidate. I don't care about religion. I care about who you are, your ability, competency, courage, knowledge to do right. Your religion does not matter. Then this madness of Muslim ticket started. Christian, the ones who claim they are Christians, started kicking. Then we did not see Adeboye, who was everywhere protesting against the Jonathan. Adeboye, Oyedepo, all of them went to their holes to hide, to tell you how wicked these people are. They are accomplices of what has destroyed Nigeria. And they don't like us talking about it. But we have to talk about it. Nigeria is our country. Nobody has a right to destroy Nigeria. I am a citizen of Nigeria. Some of you watching me are Nigerians. You are citizens of Nigeria. Yes, do you know we owe Nigeria an obligation to defend her at all times against their fellow Nigerians who want to destroy the country, either on their own or in active connivance with people from outside the country. Yes, we all have failed to stand up for Nigeria, and this is what we are calling now for. We must stand up for Nigeria right now. All right. When they started talking about Muslim ticket, what did he do? This rogue, he went and arranged for rogue pastors, people with cassock, and then they signed up that they are pastors. They supported Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Nigerians, you guys are funny. You cannot say you did not sit down one and sign. All right. He said he was going to continue Buhari's policies. Is there anyone that he dropped? He filled Bola Ahmed Tinubu like a Buhari. He filled all the strategic positions in Nigeria with his tribesmen, from the Attorney General, Director of Customs, Immigration, yes, and Chief Judge of the Federation. You name it. The same thing Buhari did. Head of EFCC, head of DSS. Yes. So now they have turned the country into a pariah where nobody can raise a finger. And you say you did not know? This is a state capture by Bola Ahmed Tinubu in conjunction with the Fulani elites to continue their evil on Nigeria. And this is why every Nigerian must rise up right now, regardless of tribes. Let's stand up and save that country. All right? Yes. It silence all oppositions are now silent. Everybody is now either becoming a member of his political party or going to another party to form a coalition driven by Fulani elites. All right? He has been silent over all the activities of Gumi, like Buhari did. Gumi is the great mastermind of terrorism in Nigeria. He has been making very offensive statements against Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. Yes, the most recent one, that the Fulani terrorists in the forest are their warriors. Calling on the, I don't know who is calling this time, the so-called Northerners to vote against anybody who want to do anything that will end the reign of terror being unleashed by those terrorists that they stationed in our forest. Yes. Yes. You say you did not see that? And are you aware now that there is a bill before the National Assembly? Are you aware, Nigerians, are you aware that there is a bill before the National Assembly to make the fake Fulani Sultan in Sokoto, Saad Abubakar? Yes. And the Oni of Ife, the young man who has no respect for even his culture, who is not doing anything to advance the cause of the tradition of the Yoruba people. The man who is committing all kinds of immorality. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a bill at the National Assembly to make them the permanent co-chairmen of Nigeria's Traditional Rulers Council. Did you hear that? The bill is right now. It has scaled through the second reading at the National Assembly to make them co-chairmen of Nigeria's Traditional Rulers Council. That is an aberration. Our constitution does not support that. We are a country. We are not a monarchy. And, to make it matter worse, the Sultan in Sokoto, fake Sultan of Sokoto, is not a traditional ruler. He cannot be a traditional ruler over House and Hausa majority, with whom they don't have anything in common traditionally. Whose cultural or traditional heritage is he defending? Or is he promoting? Or is he protecting? That's Bola Ahmed Tinubu leading a state capture. Yes, just a few weeks ago, to support what I'm saying, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has put Nigerians in the cage. His son, Yi Tinubu, went and was inaugurated into Mieti Allah, the biggest Fulani umbrella terrorist organization that has taken responsibility for the mayhem taking place in many parts of Nigeria. You remember the running battle they had with the governor Autumn of Plateau State. The president of Mieti Allah, Bello Bodejo, came out to say it openly that they were behind the massacre of innocent and defenseless Plateau citizens, Nigerian citizens in Plateau. And nothing happened. And they have been sacking villages, one village after the other. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been silent. In Nigeria, close to Abuja, Bola Badijo, the leader of Mieti Allah, the terrorist organization that is supposed to be outlawed in Nigeria, and that the United States here is working hard on outlawing because they have an understanding that it's a terrorist organization. He recruited 4,000 Fulanis, put them through military training in Nasarawa under the watch of Governor Sule. Governor Sule, whom I know relatively personally here. His family lives here. His Igbo wife lives in Houston. Yes, he's a Fulani. Bello Badejo raised 4,000 Fulani soldiers, armed them, graduated them. He was celebrated like a king and dispersed them to forests across Nigeria. And the Nigerian government, under the rogue Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when we started making raising a lot of dust, they said they arrested him. But the next day he's out. But just a few weeks ago, Bola Tinubu's son was seen being coronated, being admitted, being inducted into Mieti Allah. It is everywhere. It is everywhere. And you are still telling me that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not in cahoots Yes, state capture. Just a few days ago, his daughter, Folashade, that he appointed unconstitutionally as Iyaloja General of Nigerian market women, something that we have never seen before. Our country is not a Yoruba kingdom. Iyaloja of Nigeria, Iyaloja General of Nigeria. Yes, Bola Ahmed Tinubu appointed his daughter, Iyaloja General of Nigeria. And his daughter is busy traveling from one state to the other, installing state Iyalojas. And then he got to Benin last week. Uh-huh. He got to Benin last week to install an Iyaloja in Edo State. Actually, he had already installed the Iyaloja at the government house, Edo State government house, with the governor there, a man who cannot read or write, a man who has the lowest of IQ as a man, as a leader. Okpebo, yes, Okpebolo, Monday Okpebolo was there, presided over Tinubu's daughter's visit to Benin City, Edo State, to inaugurate an Iyaloja, something that is an aberration to what the Edos or the Benis know, because to stand up to tell Bola Tinubu's daughter, no, you cannot do this here. We have our tradition. This is an allergy to our tradition. But guess what? The Oba is in trouble right now. If care is not taken, Monday Okpebolo will be the one announcing his suspension as the Oba of Benin. Yes, the Oba of Benin has been so disrespectful to the throne of his ancestors. We grew up knowing the Oba does not go on transfer. The Oba does not move anywhere. But this one has been moving. First, he went to move and lower himself before a little rat called Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos. What is it? Is it money that he's looking for or what? And then right there, where he was with Sanwo-Olu, he told Nigerians that Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a gift from God to the people of Nigeria. How things change so fast. Look at where things are right now. Yes, yes. This is sad for Nigeria. This is not our country. This is not the country of my father. This is not the country that I grew up knowing that was traveling prosperity. Our country to a joke, to a huge joke. Bola Ahmed Tinubu works with masterminds of terrorism. He appointed Bello Matawale, known for funding banditry for 8 years as governor of Zamfara State. And in fact, gave the leadership of this terrorist organization a place, a place of residence, funded them and bought operational vehicles with which they were kidnapping, raping, maiming, and stealing from Nigeria. And they were involved, or they have been ever involved, with illegal mining of gold in Zambia. The man, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, appointed defense minister. A man who says fighting terrorism. Christopher Musa, I know you are frustrated. I know you are not happy, but I'm disappointed in you that you have not behaved like a soldier should act. Yes. So Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been silent. His vice president is a terrorist with ties to Boko Haram. Yes, and in whose house? Those who masterminded the bombing of the United Nations building in 2011 were arrested. I'm talking about Kashin Shetima, the rogue vice president of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm talking about masterminds of terrorism. Saad Abubakar. Yes. Saad Abubakar, who says or does nothing when innocent. The man who wants to give Sharia to the whole people of Nigeria. Sharia that is used to silence the poor, but never applied to Fulani thieves who have been ripping off Nigeria. Yes, and fleecing the country's economy. One of them stole, as a federal government secretary, 80 billion naira. 80 billion naira. The next day, he was given a chieftaincy title. Yes, by the Fulani Emir in Kano. What a country. What a people. Now, the question is, Nigerians, what is it that you are all cowards? That you cannot stand up? What else do you want to be told that will wake you up to stand up? This is where Nigeria is. And Nigeria is a country where old people are now appointed as youth leaders. We're going to be talking about that in our one of our broadcasts. Youth leaders in Nigeria are old men. 60-year-old men call themselves youth leaders in Nigeria. And Nigerians go to sleep over it. They don't bother about it. The real youth of Nigeria, the real youth of Nigeria are repressed. They are gagged. They are reduced. They are nobodies. That we come from a Nigeria where student union leaders are people who are not in schools. Yes, National Association of Nigerian Students. Their leaders are not in school. They are not currently enrolled in school. But they come and are elected as presidents of NAMS. And Nigerian youths keep quiet. Yes, who caused Nigeria? Who did this to us? Man, I bet to leave, and I'm gonna see you guys in our next broadcast later tonight. It's been such a great moment, hanging out with you as always. And again, you responded through with your presence here. We'll continue to thank and appreciate all of you. Again, before I leave, I call on all of you, all those who have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. If you are a Nigerian, take this message to every Nigerian that you know and urge them, invite them to ONN. Remember, ONN is a global movement. Yes, for peace, security, and justice. For now, and I love you guys.